The body is a very complex matrix of systems which work individually and collectively. When you get sick and experience some symptoms, how does your doctor tell what is wrong, considering that the body is fully covered with the skin? By looking at the symptoms. The same symptom in one person can mean a different illness in another person. This is the dilemma that is facing health practitioners every day. The headache of diagnosis. In this show, we present you with a medical intuitive who transcends the barriers of diagnosis and treatment and make this look so easy. Watch the show and be amazed.
I am a medical intuitive. I use alternative techniques to diagnose and treat illnesses.
According to into yabo research yabo ayikho treatment for lead disease.
This is a God-given gift which is coupled with my training and acumen for physiology and anatomy. Over the years, I've successfully diagnosed and treated illnesses that have defied even the best of some of the medical practices. We all have our life purpose, and this one is mine. Welcome to Dr. Alternative Show. We're back again. We're still covering the topic of on thyroid. Thank you very much for your questions. It is really evident that this is a very topical issue that is bothering a lot of people. Before we move on with what we have to finish up on this matter, we just want you to have a look at the clip that we prepared, particularly for those that missed the first one. Please take a look.
The thyroid is one of the most important glands that play a key role in a variety of body functions. Its function is not just limited to food digestion. It has a role in your heartbeat. It has a role in weight loss or weight gain. If you are struggling with infertility, check it out. If you are battling with erectile dysfunction, check it out. If you are struggling with calcification, check it out. The list goes on. If it is overactive, you have a problem. And if it is underactive, you also have a problem. So this tiny butterfly, or bow tie, as some people call it, will make or break your health. So look after it.
Welcome back. Andiswa, can you greet the viewers?
A warm welcome to all of our viewers. Thembi, once again, thank you for having me on your show, and I look forward to the discussions.
All right. Again, I will open with a case. I will open with a case that presented with thyroid problems. This is actually a relative of mine. She had all of a sudden, she started getting so tired and lost a lot of weight very, very drastically. And when she was sent to the hospital for checkups, they actually picked up that her thyroid was overactive. And to a point where they wanted to remove the thyroid gland because they said she was developing a goiter and wanted to remove the thyroid gland. And because that was the rate at which the thyroid was racing, was alarming. Okay, and that was hitting that heart very, very hard. Remember, when the thyroid is overactive like that, that heart is running like crazy. It's like having a coach that takes you for your regular routine exercises and make you run even when you say, "Hi, I've finished my plan for today," and he still makes you run. So it really lambasts the heart. So it was the case with her as well. So she was really at a risk of her heart packing up. And because they could not regulate the thyroid, the hormone production was really alarming. They could just tone down a bit, but they were not in a position to really control it, which is why they decided they wanted to remove the thyroid gland. But then what stopped them from removing the thyroid gland was that they had to have it stable a bit. Because remember, when a person is being operated, the heart must be in a good condition to be able to withstand all the demands of the surgery. But now her heart could not take that. They had to make sure that at least the level of stability was within the safe range. And for the whole year, that is what they were working on. They were trying to regulate, and it was not balancing, such that I remember when she shared with me, she said there was this doctor, the one who was senior, who was just like tired. When he sees that it's her, he would just, such that she was not looking forward to meeting with him. She preferred other younger doctors. But then she said, but in fact, that is what she was doing every month. She had to go for a checkup, in these big hospitals, and they would test, they would see that the level are still too high, and then they would send her back again with medication. So that is what she had been doing for the whole year, up until I said, let me see what I can do. Okay. And then I started working on her. Now remember, with us, like I said in our previous show before we close, that you don't have to have your thyroid gland removed, because we've got protocols that stabilize the thyroid. And we are in a position to see, is it the Graves' disease, is it Hashimoto, is it other problems that cause it to be like that, so that we can not just deal with taming or babysitting the thyroid, but we go and close the tap that leads to it behaving like that. So that is what I did in her case. I stabilized her thyroid, because she had hyperthyroidism, but it was not Graves' disease, okay, but it was just still also, she had hyperthyroidism. So I stabilized that thyroid, and I regulated the iodine levels, because that was also another issue. Her iodine levels were also out of balance. And just to digress a bit, I want to mention something about iodine, because people, when I said something about iodine, and then some of the people were saying, I want to buy iodine, because you remember that you can buy iodine as a product, okay, from and you can buy it over the counter. But it's very dangerous to take iodine when you don't know how your levels are, because also the oversupply of iodine is catastrophic, just like the undersupply. People that have even end up developing cancer, not just of the thyroid, but of other organs. Some of those cancer-producing cells are actually linked to iodine. So I want to caution people, don't, just because I've spoken about iodine, don't rush and go and buy iodine and take it because maybe you know you are hypertensive, or you suspect you've got thyroid, and then it's dangerous to take iodine when your levels are normal, and you will not know if your levels are normal until you have them tested. So And even with us, when we give you iodine, we know how you must take it. You'll find we'll not just give iodine. There are people that you find have got thyroid problems, but it's not linked to iodine deficiency. It's something else. So we are in a position to separate and see, in your case, it's this, so we need to beef up your iodine levels, or it's that. So I'm really cautioning, so I was just digressing a bit. So, but what I did with her, I stabilized the thyroid. I beefed up the iodine levels and assisted it to produce normally. And then she went for a test. I remember she called me and she said she was actually shaking. And I was saying, but why were you shaking? She said she was shaking because she could not believe that the levels of a thyroid had stabilized this much, such that, and she said, interestingly enough, she was actually seen by this senior Indian doctor who had some kind of attitude of just dismissing it. Because when he looked at the results, she said he pulled the chair closer to the table because he also just could not believe himself that these were the results. And these results were not cooked. They were coming from the department, from the section that does the testing, you know. So he looked and wanted to know. In fact, he didn't ask how did she do it because the medication was also listed. And I had told her she must stop taking this and this because this is what I will do. When I give you medication, my protocols, I will also interfere with what your doctor has prescribed for you because intuitively I also know. So I will be in a position to say, no, take this one or reduce this one or increase here, but in line with what I've got. I mean, with what I'm recommending to you. So that's what I did even with her. I said, stop this, take this, and in collaboration with my product. And that stabilized her thyroid. It stopped it from going crazy and totally transformed her. And she did not even need to have her thyroid removed because they asked if she still wanted. Now they were asking her. They were not saying have it done because now they could see that it was not necessary. But now the fear with them is that maybe it might come back again because with them it's always babysitting, which is not the case with us. So that's the other case that I wanted to present, that was on the verge of having the thyroid gland removed because of the fear that it might maybe compress the trachea and cause suffocation, or the heart was taking too much knock and so on and so on. But then I managed to stabilize that thyroid hyperactivity.
Okay, so you're talking iodine, thyroid. I just have a question that is a bit off point. When someone has a thyroid problem, would you say it's genetically related? Meaning, can someone be born with a gene that will automatically, subject them to having thyroid issues? Or would you say it's something, obviously, in terms of your lifestyle that can also just come up as you go along?
Well, it's largely lifestyle. But I've had situations of people that have got a problem of oxalate. Okay, now oxalate, people that you find, they've got a they've got a congenital condition, they're born with a condition where they're producing too much oxalate. Okay, now something that is called hyperoxaluria. Okay, you find that as young as they are, they might actually have that type of condition. But that condition, what it does, and those are the ones that are very prone to kidney stone formation. Okay, as young children, they find they have serious kidney stone formation, and that even affects the liver as well, which is and
this is something out of their control, so to speak.
Yeah, because they're born with it. It's not because they I mean, because a child that's born with that type of condition, it's not because they've done anything. They're born into that unfortunate situation. So that's still that links to the thyroid, but it links to the kidneys and even the liver. Okay, but the oxalate is a substance that we don't necessarily make in our bodies. Just like calcium, we don't make, we get from food. Even oxalate, we will get it more in plants. It's a naturally occurring substance, but we don't need it. But plants make use of it, okay? Because plants make use of it in what way? It binds the calcium. Remember, plants, some of the stuff that we have, plants also have. Animals also have. So calcium in plants, you find that those plants will actually bind the calcium in a way of stopping the levels, okay, of calcium. But then in human beings, it doesn't actually do that. But then you find that if you are prone to having high levels of oxalate, then you will form kidney stones very frequently than other people. And then you need to avoid eating plants that carry things like oxalate. Like, for instance, in my previous show, when I spoke about that lady who had a problem of kidney stones, when I was working with her, I actually looked at her diet. When I come back after the break, I'm just going to bring in the aspect of diet in how you can deal with your thyroid. Let's go for a break.
Are you sitting with an illness with no diagnosis, and every doctor in town does not know what is wrong with you? Don't throw in a towel. There's hope for you. St. Mary's Alternative Clinic is a clinic with divine guidance that can do what doctors can't do. Make a booking and you won't be sorry.
Welcome back. I just want to bring the aspect of diet, which is actually very important in the case of people with thyroid problems. Now, this lady that I was touching on, I looked at her diet, and some of the stuff that I took off from her diet, it was quite a number of things, actually. Things that would actually be healthy, like beetroot, like nuts, like certain types of fish, like certain type of vegetables. So I took out quite a lot. I remember she said to me when I said, just send me a list of your diet per day. And she was a very health conscious person. She would be juicing beetroot, she would be taking nuts, she would be taking cereals mixed with this. A whole lot. She was very, very, very health conscious. But almost half of the stuff that she was taking was very bad for her because of this problem of oxalate. Okay. So now when you've got issues of calcium, therefore you need to avoid foods that are high in oxalate, okay, like beetroot, I was talking about nuts and all. So I took away quite a lot of stuff from her diet. So coming back therefore to your question, there are genetic links to thyroid, but the one that comes to mind at the top of my head is the one of oxalate levels, which you may be born with, and your child might end up having a recurring kidney stone formation because of the calcium that she or he is keeping because of that.
So you can also basically fix that, meaning if someone like this child you were talking about, she's not really, well, she is sick.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But you
it's a very serious condition, hyperoxaluria.
But it's something that is part of her genes. So are you able to regulate that kind of situation?
Yeah, it's a very tough one. Okay, I've had 2 cases of kids that had hyperoxaluria. One passed on. The other one we managed to stabilize. And the problem with that is that the liver, it was not even the kidneys that packed up, it was the liver, okay, because he was jaundiced. Even by the time he came to me, because out of the blue, you will find that because of that oxalate, then the child would have big kidney stones. It's not like you will have teeny weeny, and they will just, it's just like, if maybe I can make an example of a situation where you might find something that people can relate to, where you might find that you may be sitting with your bowl of salt, and then maybe some water spills into that, and then they end up forming crystals and just hardening at an alarming, that 1 minute you had your free-flowing table salt, the next minute you had crystallized salt because water spilled onto that. So it's something like that, where you find that your levels of oxalate will just mess up the calcium quickly into crystals, and then an avalanche of problems they come in. Because remember, the liver is also work hand in hand with the kidneys. Okay, the liver, even to maintain that fluid, because you'll find that some people will say, they suspect that there's a problem with my kidneys because I've got protein in my urine, okay, or I've got blood in my urine. But that's from the liver. Of course, let alone that the kidneys are also part of blood formation, because they produce the hormone that will send a message that will go as a messenger to your bone marrow and say, hey, we need blood cells here. But your liver is the one that is responsible for making proteins that keep water in the blood, which is fluid that gets eliminated by your kidneys. Like your albumin, your fibrinogen, your globulin, those are blood proteins that are made by the liver. But then they maintain fluid in the blood, which is doing work for the kidneys. So the kidneys filter that urine. Okay, but then once you have problems with nephrons, then you find that protein escapes through the nephrons and end up landing in your urine, and then they will say, but then they know there's something, because that's a telltale. Okay, so what I'm getting at therefore is that there is a range of, it may be genetic, and other people that you find have got a problem of a weak, because that's what happens also with the genes, that you might find that family tends to have a weakness on a particular system. Okay. That kuthiwa abantu bala family bayathanda uba ne-cancer, abantu banala family baba namaqhuma, abantu bala family they tend they become blind, abantu bala family they tend to have kids. So you'll find that in a family there is that link, that transmission of the weak or strong genes from whoever, from this person, and it filters down to. So that is what constitutes our genealogy. So there's always a link there. Okay.
Okay. Now, what would you say is the cause for so many, the growing numbers of people with thyroid? It's such a growth. What is the cause in that case?
I think it's the lifestyle.
Okay.
I definitely think it's the lifestyle, because if you look at the I'm not saying this comment that I'm going to make, I'm not saying it as a racist comment. I'm saying it as the reality. This is what. Now, if you look at us black people, if you look at our great-grandparents, they were tiny. You will never find obese black people in the past. They were tiny, they were athletic, they were healthy. If you look at them, I remember once I was at a magistrate clerk of the court, and a man, someone who looked like in his 40s, walked in to apply for an old age pension. And this clerk, we were both laughing and then he says, "No, Tata, we only give an old pension to people that are 60 and above." And he said, "But I'm 71. He looked 40, I promise you, he looked 40. And he was a fair complexioned person. Tiny, fresh. And he said, I used to, when we were hunting wild animals, I used to run with the dogs. I would compete with the dogs as they ran, and I would actually even outrun them. That is the speed." And he was short. You know, those people that are short, they tend to be fast, to have a fast pace, you know. And he said, "I would run our dogs. I would outrun them." And because you find they were eating from nature. They lived perfectly with nature. So, but then if you compare how people in the rural area, black people and all that, and you compare with those with white people you find white people are big, are tall. They tend to grow old much quicker. And even though they may be active and but you find that they were totally different from us. And if you look at the way the food they eat, it's all the stuff that we're eating now. That with the cheeses and the meat and you can name it, you know. Stuff that we never touched. Cheese and all that. If we touch cheese, it would be because we've got, we're milking our cow. We're making it ourselves. It's not processed. There's no fridge that's going to preserve it. We get everything from the soil. You cook it when you need it. And if you eat meat, maybe we eat it once in a week or once in a month, and it's slaughtered fresh. It's been eating organic stuff. And all we put is maybe just salt, and we eat it without all the sauces and the what. And then what do you see? The black children are no different from white children. They're big. All the types of qualities in terms of body postures and size and you get from our children now. You find a grower. You find he says I am 10, and he looks 15 or 20. He's tall. So it's the lifestyle. But what what has led to that? If you look at from what we used to be to what we've totally moved to the lifestyle of westernized lifestyle, which we believe is a sign of you have made it, you have arrived. Okay, once you have money, then you can go and have pizza. Weekend you're gonna have a pizza, you're gonna have a burger, you're gonna have all these fried chickens and the whatnot. That to us means you have arrived, and that's the time when you start having all these illnesses. So thyroid is squarely linked to the unhealthy lifestyle that we have in our modern times. Okay. When we come back after the break, we look more into this. Let's go for a quick one. Life and death are created and controlled by God, so is nature. Nature, therefore, provides all the healing properties necessary to service mankind. Even scientists are students of nature. In the chaos of coronavirus pandemic, nature has provided us with mystical rose oil. This oil is a combination of specially selected and blended essential oils like clove, eucalyptus, rosemary, and many more. The special selection and the skillful blending process gives a finished product of remarkable protection from coronavirus. You have tried everything to protect yourself, right? It's time you try mystical rose oil, the miraculous gift of nature. Welcome back. We're looking at thyroid problems, and when we went for a quick break, we were trying to see why is there so much mushrooming or emergence of thyroid problems in our time.
Okay, so in this case now, say someone doesn't know what's the story, what can they do to find out if their thyroid is actually functioning well?
Okay. Firstly, you can have it tested. You don't have to come to us. I mean, I'm not really saying that because you might have your medical aid. But now the problem with conventional is that they tend to discover once it has hit you hard. Okay, like in my previous show, I was talking about that lady. That lady had an endocrinologist who was working on her, but who never even picked up that she had thyroid problems. She was focusing on the adrenal glands, that is the kidney, So you can have it tested, but you can come to us, because with us, we're in a position to tell you
what's the story there?
What's going on before you even knew you had a thyroid problem. But maybe you have a heart. Okay, you have a heart problem. Like, for instance, I mentioned that maybe I can touch on the other case of a thyroid that I had. This lady had, when she came to me, that heart was going. The heart was just not resting. Okay, that is what they picked up when they tested at the cardiologist. Okay, now this was seen as a heart problem. Her heart was racing too much, and it was not resting. Okay, but it was not linked to thyroid. Okay.
Are you saying that it was not linked?
It was not linked to thyroid. They were just looking at that heart. Okay. Now, remember, when you've got a problem of hyperthyroidism, that heart is made to run like crazy. Okay. It does not get a chance to rest at all, which is a serious problem, because the heart is supposed to pump and relax, and not all the time. I mean, it's got, that is how it's created. It must, because when it pumps, it relaxes so that it pumps again, So, but when it's racing like that, the chance of relaxing there's no chance for that. Okay. So, but then it's going to pack up. It will definitely pack up. So, but then she mentioned that there had been an indication that there was calcium levels were slightly elevated. They were slightly elevated. It was not an issue. They didn't see that as an issue. I cannot remember what she said they had picked up was the problem, but she was on medication, but that heart was going. She was so weak, so weak, so weak. So when she came to me, she wanted me to help her with this. But then what I picked up was that she actually had calcification in her pulmonary vessels. Now remember, calcium deposits. Now this is not cold. I'm not talking kidney stones now. I'm talking calcification, which is calcium crystals, because remember, calcium is transported by the blood. Okay. But now it's the heart that is pumping that blood. So now you might find that with all that load of calcium, because you're not, whether your thyroid or your kidneys are causing you to have calcification, then that heart works like crazy, because it's the load. It's carrying a load, so it must pump. So it must pump that load. Okay. But then you find that it says, I cannot pump beyond this point, then I'm just going to dump it here. Okay. So it will dump anyway. It may dump, like I mentioned the other time when I was talking circadian rhythm, people that battle to fall asleep, that if you've got pineal calcification, you will not sleep. it doesn't matter how much sleeping tablets you get. So even with with this one now, therefore, because her calcification was in her pulmonary vessels, okay, the vessels that service the heart, your large vessels that are servicing the heart, So that heart, that heart was going. I promise you that heart was going, because now these calcium crystals, they are just like staring at this heart, and so close. At least when the damping is far from the heart, it will still create issues for the heart, but it's not like when it's right at within the premises of the heart. So that is what was killing that heart. And if she had not come to us, I promise you, that heart would have packed up. That heart would have packed up. And she actually acknowledged that. Okay, so I've had quite a few cases like that, where the problem of calcification becomes too much. So what I'm getting at therefore is, come to us whether you know or you don't know, whether you have a diagnosis or not.
You don't.
I don't really worry about what diagnosis you have. I will either concur and indicate that this is true, or negate it. Okay, I mean, I will negate it if it's not what it is, but I will not negate it when it is the truth. Okay, I've had 1 or 2 cases where I find this is true. I concur, but then I've had cases where in most cases I actually don't concur. Okay, so, and I don't bend. I literally don't bend. It doesn't matter how much you try and convince me that you saw it on the scan, the ultrasound, when they're doing it, they showed you this. I don't worry about that. Okay, I will tell you what I see, and I will treat what I see. I will not treat you with what you say your doctor said you have, okay, but cannot fix. I will treat what I see and take it from there. Okay, so that is what I am encouraging people to come. And my biggest concern is the heart. Okay, the thyroid lambasts the heart really very bad. Okay, it kills that heart. Okay, and the focus in most cases, you find that the focus is on the heart. But what is actually killing that heart? Maybe your thyroid, maybe your renal problem. Okay, because now you'll find it will start from the thyroid, but then it hits your renal system, and then your renal system hits your heart back. And that's what happens. That's what happens. So I'm really emphasizing the importance of having it checked, so that we can stop it before it becomes seriously catastrophic and
a huge problem. Can you give us examples, Thembi, of successful cases that you've treated with the thyroid?
Oh, a lot. We've treated quite a lot of people with thyroid problems. Even the ones that I'm referring to, that except for the reporter. I never treated the reporter because it was not meant for that anyway. Okay, but the one that I'm talking about in the previous show, that we treated successfully. We stabilized those iodine levels and that thyroid and kidney stones. We cleared those stones. Even the one that I was talking about, who is a relative of mine. Like I said, we stabilized that, and she never even needed to go back to. Even this one of the heart. So I've got a string of cases that I've treated where people had issues of thyroid, and like I've indicated, the thyroid is not only limited to renal, or even people that you find have got erectile dysfunctions. There are people that you find are really having serious emotional problems because in their marriage they just have serious issues of erectile dysfunction, and linked to the heart. I mean, to the thyroid. Maybe I can touch on that one also, because those are the ones that are not common. There is something that is called nitric oxide, okay, which is linked to the thyroid. And nitric oxide is a messenger. It's a hormone, a messenger that gets sent to various areas, including various systems, including the erectile dysfunction problems. Now, when your thyroid has damaged your cardiovascular system, because nitric oxide is actually kept inside the blood vessels. It's not sitting in the thyroid, but the thyroid is very involved because it's an endocrine system hormone. Yeah, but then nitric oxide actually sits inside the blood vessels, okay, in the membrane that covers the inside of your blood vessel, and it is the one that gets sent to your genitalia, so that you can have a problem. You can actually have no issues with erection. Okay, so now when you've got problems of thyroid, and the nitric oxide is actually short, is not sufficient, and then you will have issues of, because the messenger is deficient, is not in a position to go and send the message down to say, hey,
there's a problem.
Yeah. So then you find you will have issues. Meanwhile, there are no other issues that are related to your system, to your genital system. It's directly linked from nitric oxide to your thyroid, and then we fix the thyroid. We beef up the nitric oxide supply, and you get sorted. So what I'm getting at, even people that have got issues of infertility, thyroid is also squarely involved in this. So we've had cases of infertility, people that could not conceive, that is linked to thyroid, that we have turned around, and issues of erectile dysfunctions that have got nothing to do with, of course, I don't want to say problems of erectile dysfunctions are only limited to thyroid. There are a whole lot of other issues, okay, that link to that. But I'm just saying thyroid is one of them. But our advantage is that we are in a position to see if it is the thyroid, or if it is your prostate, or if there are other problems that are relating to that, and we are in a position to say we can fix that. But there are also other areas where you find that you may have genetic problems, okay, serious genetic problems that will cause you to have issues of sexuality, which are still linked to thyroid, but which have got nothing to do with your genitalia. Okay, so in a nutshell, we've got lots of problems in various systems that were affected because of thyroid, because we are in a position to say, hey, you culprit, we see you, we know what you did last summer.
Okay. So in a nutshell, basically, you're saying you can identify all the thyroid issues and you can treat them successfully. Okay.
Those and in case of what those thyroid problems are, we will tell you. We will tell you if it's Hashimoto, we will tell you if it's Graves' disease, we will tell you if it's sarcoidosis, we will tell you what the problem is, and we'll tell you how it is causing this symptom that you're having and how we can fix it. Let's go for a quick break. After the break, we will wrap up.
Are you sitting with an illness with no diagnosis, and every doctor in town does not know what is wrong with you? Don't throw in a towel. There's hope for you. St. Mary's Alternative Clinic is a clinic with divine guidance that can do what doctors can't do. Make a booking and you won't be sorry.
Welcome back. We are going to wrap up now on the question of thyroid, and I hope you've managed to see how it affects a lot of people differently. And even though you may not see the link, but we'll be in a position to map it out for you and craft the way forward to bringing your health back to a
Okay, so we're going now to your viewer questions. Okay, so one client here says that they've been sitting with a back pain and they're not sure where it's coming from or stemming from. So they've watched your show on quite a few episodes, but now they're not sure whether when they come to you, what would be the... I think what they're trying to say is, can they come to you with this back pain? Is it something that you feel you feel is urgent enough for them to come and get tested? Or maybe is there another milder solution to the problem?
Well, I would suggest, remember with me, even though I can do distance scanning, I don't really encourage distance scanning except for people that are really, really, really sick, okay, who cannot travel. But if you can travel, I encourage people to actually come for a scan, because like I said, once you have a backache problem, the chances are there are kidney issues there. Okay. Now remember, there is also something if you look at the structure of the body in the waistline, you will see that there is a retroperitoneal region there. Okay. Now the retroperitoneal, that's the part that I'm actually going to show the viewers. But in the retroperitoneal region, there are certain organs that sit there. There are both kidneys, they sit there. The pancreas is there. The ascending and the descending colon is there. The rectum is there. Even the esophagus, even though the esophagus is high up, okay, but it forms part of the retroperitoneal organs, okay. Now you'll find that people, once you may not necessarily have a problem with the kidneys. You may have a problem with the retroperitoneal region. And now the retroperitoneal region will give you that backache. You find if you are sitting down for a long time, maybe not even for a long time, when you get up, it becomes a pain. It becomes an issue because the backache is there. It reminds you that it's there. But then you might also even have frontal, maybe on the side or in the front. That's still part of retroperitoneal region. You might even have issues with your swallowing. Find maybe when you eat, you find that you eat, but food seems not to be coming down, to be being pushed down easily. Maybe you need to drink water in order to chase food down. It feels as though it's sitting somewhere. Okay, so those are areas that may be linked to that back. You think it's just a backache that is because you're sitting on the computer for a long time, or you drive a lot, your work is far, and you have to drive long distances on a daily basis, and so on. And even the truck drivers who travel quite a lot, of course, that also hammers the kidneys quite a lot. But then what I'm getting at is, don't take it light. Like I said that in the previous shows, I was shocked to see how many people are actually sitting with renal failure and they're not even aware of it. So that backache is a telltale, and it is saying, get up, come and be tested, so that at least you know what you're sitting with. Because once you have a symptom, I promise you, we will find what is causing that symptom. Even if you don't have a symptom, we will still find what the situation is in your case. And you find that in some cases people will say, oh, nandinayo, nandikandanayo. You know, you find that because maybe I see what's happening, then I ask, do you experience this? Then I say, oh, I used to have that. It's not bothering me anymore. Yet in your scan, it's still showing. It's dormant, but it's still showing. It's still there. When it comes up, it will hit you even harder. So what I'm getting at is that we will pick up what's causing your symptom. We will even pick up what is not causing a symptom, but is like lying low and is going to hit you hard one day. Which is why I've said in the past that those people that you find, people say, no, but he was fine. We don't know what happened. I promise you, I'm telling you with a degree of certainty, you know, a full degree of certainty that I will be able to pick up what would have caused you sudden death, maybe in a year or 6 months' time, and yet you were not experiencing anything. And this is what happens also, that you'll find I will pick up someone is already having issues in this area. Meanwhile, they're not experiencing. And then I tell them that when I treat you, you must not be surprised if you experience something like this, because this is what's this is not only just part of the healing, because once it's just like the example that I normally use of cockroaches, where you find that a person sees one cockroach and she just fleets on that cockroach, and maybe the fumes of that chemical end up going to the cracks where the rest of the cockroaches are coming. And then then all of a sudden, because that's what would happen, you know, particularly in these old buildings, then you find a number of them starting to come out. And then when you go and fleet, actually that's what we used to have in the boarding school that I used to attend to when I was a little girl. It was I'm a Catholic, and that was a Catholic boarding school. But it was the bed bugs. It was not cockroaches. It was the bed bugs, because we used to sleep in those beds that were made of metal. Okay. Now, in the corners of those metal, that's where the bed bugs would. Then you would be sleeping, and then you feel something is pinching, and then you get up, and you switch on because the light, the electricity was meant for every purpose. So, but you light your candle, and then you find there are so many of them. Meanwhile, you only felt maybe that's one bite, but you see that because they are nocturnal, they only come out at night. So that's the menace that we used to deal with in boarding school. That's what happens in illnesses, that you find a person may not experience anything, or maybe a little bit of a telltale symptom. But then once you start treating, and then she says, oh, no, I'm starting to experience that which you told me I'm likely to experience. Okay, so that is what happens. So we don't miss nothing. I promise you, we don't miss nothing. So you can save yourself, particularly from problems of clotting.
Okay.
Or problems of aneurysm, because the risk of aneurysm is rupture. You find a person is sitting with an aneurysm that is just a matter of time, it will rupture, because once it ruptures, it's going to kill you quickly. So those things, we are in a position to detect and be able to say, this is the way that you need to follow in order to deal with them, and so on. So in a nutshell, I'm encouraging people like this one to come and see us, and don't gamble with your health.
Irrespective of whether she thinks it's serious or not, that's still enough reason.
Even if you don't experience anything, like I'm saying, even if you don't experience anything, because you'll find that you will say you don't experience anything, but when I tell you, like I'm saying, that a person will say, that can be now. I used to have it. Or another person will say, I'm not experiencing that yet. Okay. But then you find down the line, or another person would say, I only experienced that 2 days ago, before I came to you. You know, meaning if I had booked before the 2 days, I would have told you that, no, I'm not experiencing anything. So that's what happens. The fact that you don't experience a symptom doesn't mean you are safe.
Yeah, okay.
But it doesn't mean everybody is dying or whatever. All you're coming to do is to check so that you see if you're in danger or you need just to maintain your health or whatever. But so that's all I'm saying is I'm encouraging people to please come and have checked. We'll only cover that one question, therefore, because of time, but maybe in the next show we'll try and do more of your questions. But the topics are vast and they keep coming, and even now, I don't want to give in advance now what topic I'm going to talk about, because I just want to judge it by the number of influx.
That you get.
Yeah, but keep sending those questions and keep suggesting those topics, because it's actually, in fact, I received quite a few emails of people thanking me for covering the topic on sleeping, on insomnia.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, besides the kidneys, I did not receive people thanking me for that, but I received an influx of people coming to have their kidneys tested, and then me discovering renal failure. But with insomnia, I received it. Yeah, it's like people thanking me for talking about insomnia. So it actually helps to get your suggestions, because that helps us to make sure that we're covering areas that are really sore points in your health, as opposed to just talking in general. But having said that, all the areas that we touch, there are people that are affected by that particular illness, even if they are not vocal. They may not be able to send emails or whatever, but irrespective, we thank you a lot for your emails and for your contribution in comments, and for your encouraging words, and even more so for your prayers. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.